Hola, my name is X, and I like to experiment with fashion as well as talk about whatever the hell I want on social media wherever I feel like it. And in this video, I'm kicking off a Genshin Impact fashion video series where I'm going to go region by region and assess each set of characters' outfits and style, starting with Mondstadt. I decided to go with the loose ranking approach, ordering the characters from least favorite to most favorite. And here is my criteria. This is like always my criteria. Personal resonance is top priority, but then I will be taking into account how their style relates to their elemental typing, as well as their overall alignment with the region that they're from. And then any additional sort of like character context or nuances or backstory, that's really lowest priority to me. And just a couple of notes on Mondstadt style in general. The region is based off of Germany, so we're looking at some historical, medieval, and Renaissance fashion inspiration, which is not my favorite. I've said this with regard to Metaphor Fantasio. Once you've seen that aesthetic once, you've seen it a million times, but I love that Genshin Impact innovated and elevated that style, still pulling in classic items like capes, tunics, corsets, but giving them so much more of a progressive contemporary twist, which is something I always say that I love, which is why I think Genshin Impact fashion, especially this region, is not only practical, but also stylized in a very high fashion and sophisticated way. And with Mondstadt being the city of freedom, which closely ties to the Anemo or Anemo wind element, we're looking at an Easy-Breezy style. Love Easy-Breezy, lightweight fabrics, a little bit of softness to these looks, scarves, feathers, different textures like that, and also an overall style that is conducive to movement and mobility, which is very practical and functional, but once again, done in a very stylish way. So when people are always trying to justify characters in other franchises for their practicality, I mean, you can do practical, but you can also do it in a way that's fashion. And I think that Genshin absolutely accomplished that. But before we hop into these character outfits, I do have to give a shout out to Miriam once again for dropping a super thanks on the content, holding it down with that strong MVB energy. Super appreciate your thoughtful comments, and I do hope that whoever's working on these Mortal Kombat games checks up on your fresh ideas. I'm sure you can contribute a lot to the lore and the storyline. All right, now with all of that good stuff out of the way, let's hop into the real reason why you're here, which is looking at these Genshin Impact character Mondstadt outfits. Starting with Bennett, his outfit is just very plain and just super focused on functionality, and that's really just a symptom of him being so rugged and an adventurer type. And I think it's maybe more of that scrappy energy that ties to Pyro than anything else. Not that it's a make or break or the biggest deal, but it's always kind of nice to see that paid off a little bit more in the looks. I think that compared to other franchises that are more utility and rugged, his still gives a sense, I feel like, of a little bit more sophistication, and maybe that's just a matter of the additional stylistic decorative elements that not everybody's a fan of. And then we have Razor, and I did not at all ever think that he was an electro type, but maybe it's more so the spirit of the wolf that kind of gives him a little bit more of that electric or just kind of magnetic energy. I think that his outfit's a little bit more interesting than Bennett's just because there's more length to his top. We're just getting a little bit more dimension in that regard. And his accessorizing is just a little bit more statement, particularly the necklace that he has. But outside of that, I mean, it's just a very rugged, down-to-earth style. Doesn't necessarily kind of appeal to my taste though. Diana, I don't know too much about, and I don't really care because the kitty characters are always the ones where I'm just kind of like, all right. Her top gives her an interesting silhouette, which kind of ties to some of that like more movement orientation. It's a very well coordinated outfit, very solid in terms of some of that matchy match. But I mean, like outside of that, I'm not even really getting the greatest ice vibe from this. I don't know, just like never really like appealed to me. Then we have Klee, and I feel like I've seen this silhouette, this structure so many different times, which is why like she's just not ranked higher. Nice subtle decorative elements. I don't feel like her outfit's too over the top at all. Actually rather practical. I do think that her kind of puffier silhouette does tie to some of the explosive nature of her abilities, and obviously red ties to the pyro and fire element. So I do like that she has that kind of clear cohesion and alignment going on. And I hadn't seen her alternate outfit before, and even though it's still once again just super cutesy ruffled, I really love the little witch hat addition to the mix. I feel like it definitely changes it up, taking on a little bit more of a sharper, slightly edgier style with just some of the additional components to her outfit. Then we have Sucrose, and I feel like the clothes are wearing her more than she's wearing the clothes. I feel like her personality type is a little bit more shy and a little bit more timid. And I feel like this outfit is giving a little bit more confidence and boldness that she just doesn't have. I just think that someone else could rock it so much harder than her, and not to be too critical towards her as a character. Because I mean, she's fine as she is. And I'm definitely getting a little bit of that wind element from this. Some of the kind of cape or rounded elements that she has in her sleeves. And I like that she's starting to introduce a lot more of that gold detail. Then we have Venti, and his outfit is perfect. I mean, it's definitely headed in the right direction of I think what really resonates with me as far as obvious typing alignment. And he's the wind archon anyway, so you know that he had to pay that off. Definitely reflects that easy-breezy vibe and concept of the region. I mean, the name of his outfit is called Breezy Ode. So, I mean, he's definitely really aligning with that. And then also just that medieval Renaissance style, the strong statement corset, the bard oriented kind of aesthetic. It's absolutely perfect. It just covers off all the conceptual boxes. Then we have Micah, and I haven't seen his character before, so it's kind of nice to see a newer, fresher face to this region. And I think that even though he has a boyish style similar to Bennett, his has stronger statement items that just give him so much more sophistication and impact, which is really seen in the jacket. Like, the jacket is so strong. I like the shorts too. They're not as typical. I feel like they're a little bit more formal, but still give a little bit of that youthful energy. Ties to the ice element perfectly. Like, I could easily make that connection. Simple still. I feel like this is rather practical. Then we have Noelle. A little bit of bias just because I've actually played her as a character like years ago, and I'm kind of digging a little bit of like the juxtaposition between the maid aesthetic and someone who's a bit more strong and solid and defensive. But you already know how I feel about the maid aesthetic. Like, I'm so over it, and I've already went there with ZZZ, and I feel like it doesn't completely lean into a super fan servicey element of this aesthetic. So that's why she's getting a huge pass by even being in this position in this ranking. I think Rosaria's style is an interesting twist on something that's a little bit more holy, but then just has that darker, sassier edge to it. With the belts and the buckles, the fishnet stockings. Love the bit more of the sharper elements that she has, which I feel like is a contrast to the majority of the other characters in the region. And the ice typing, I wouldn't have guessed that at all. Maybe outside of just the tone of her character and kind of what her original maybe motives or direction was. And her alternate outfit isn't really much different, just with more black. And I do think it's stronger with that in mind. I just like it that it's a taller boot. I like that the crown has more black in it. And it even is a little bit more buttoned up, I think, in terms of the top. But still gives some of that edginess and sassiness that is true to her character and her personal style. So, I mean, it works. I like it. Now for Barbara, I will 100% own that I have her at this place in the ranking just because I'm biased towards her character. Love the water element, love having used some of her abilities. I think they're kind of interesting and just fun to use. And she's a pop girly. So I always have a soft spot for a pop girly character, even though she has a very strong, like more church oriented influence on her design. And it does fall along the lines of typical kind of girly anime style that we've seen, a little bit more asymmetrical, which I think is just a little bit differentiated. And I will say that I'm not even a super big fan of her alternate. Like, I just really wish there could have been a little bit something different done here. But in the context of summer, I do like that it still is a well covered up top. Lots of leg body confidence, which I kind of do wish that there was more going on there. It's just a little stripped, but at least she has like a cute little bag that coordinates with her bow tie. Like, it's just cute, simple coordination and still plenty of sophistication that makes this a decent alternate. Now, when we move into Albedo, really love his jacket. That is just one of the strongest statement jackets. So much differentiation and unique touch to his look, and his boots are absolutely incredible. And I feel like his clothing has some interesting fastening and kind of buckling to them that feels a little bit more tech-wearish and futuristic, which I actually kind of feel like ties to his role as an alchemist, just being a bit more of an innovator and a creator in that regard. So as far as being a geo element, maybe more so just from like the concept of his role that's coming through. Then we have Amber, and what I love about her style is that she blends something that feels elite and polished and sophisticated with something that is very rugged, practical, and utility and functional. So I feel like she's covering off on both spectrums with her overall design. Love the strong corset work, and just even her boots or her like legging situation has just enough of that decorative touch to not make it feel so hollow and flat at the top. Like, it's just so perfect, well structured, well composed, feels comfortable, feels mobile, feels active, but plenty stylish. I think the alternate outfit is kind of like whatever, because it's really not giving us anything significantly differentiated outside of just really more so the torso and maybe the shorts, but still playing along plenty of the line of pyro fire energy. Jean is another design that feels easy breezy, effortlessly chic and elite. Stylized with just all those gold details, but it also needs to be just based off of the role that she holds in Mondstadt. Love the jacket, love really just the overall composition. There's just enough there, like the belt, like the corset, like the tall boots, to help not make it feel like it's just one flat element. That's the importance of accessorizing and stylizing things, is just to give it a little bit more visual intrigue. But I definitely love the alternate in this case much more. Just anything that's bright and kind of airy like this with a touch of black for a little extra edge, I think just speaks to me. I think I've called this out enough times across franchises at this point, but I love her alternate outfit. Talk about range and duality. She's absolutely giving it. The top is so cute. This is super practical. This is a literal everyday outfit that any girl could wear. I feel like the kind of garter belt detail that she has is a little bit bigger than some characters like Astra, say, or like we got from Barbara's alternate. I feel like having a bit more of that kind of tail behind her also helps fill that void. And the shorts feel a little bit slightly longer, just slightly longer, but they're also high-waisted. Like, it's just such a cute outfit. Now, Fischl's style starts to lean into some camp. And I feel like she's even known as a character to be into some fantasy and a little bit of whimsy and quirk anyway. And so that's definitely coming through. I mean, but that's what makes fashion fun. And I think that she's pulling it off in a very extravagant and chic way. It feels a little anime, like typical anime girlish, like that we've seen across the spectrum of these gacha games especially. But I think it's just done in a little bit of a sharper, intentional way that makes it feel so much more interesting. Electrical, obviously. I will say though that I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of the alternate. This is especially anime. I feel like her default outfit just had a little bit more modern edge to it that didn't feel like it was leaning too much into some classical design that made it feel so cliche, but it's very lovely. It does still kind of align with the overall medieval aesthetic with a bit of that contemporary twist. It's just, and it's a nice change. It's some duality. It just, I don't know, like it just isn't speaking to me as much. Lisa is one of my all-time favorite female characters in video games. I just love her character. I love her attitude. I love her maturity. I love a little bit of her seductive nature in some regards even. And I obviously love the color purple. And I love that she has a slouchy mage hat. Like, it just still has those rounded elements, still feels very Renaissance, but it just also feels so high fashion, plenty luxurious, and gives enough little touch and peak of body confidence. Like, it's just a nice, well-rounded look for her character, and obviously ties to her typing perfectly. And I love her default more than this alternate outfit, but this alternate outfit gives her range and shows that she can not only embody just different genres of style, but she can kind of give an overall different vibe. She just feels a little softer, a little bit more reserved, and like less bold in this look. Love the different type of hat that she has, and even her skirt or the rest of her gown or garment that she's wearing feels even more rounded, which I feel like is a nice contrast to some of the sharper cuts that we did get in her previous default. So she has not only range, but duality. So I just really love that for her. Then we get into the player characters, and I thought that their designs were just so sharp, especially for just basic player characters. Even though it definitely, especially with Lumine's, definitely falls along the lines of like typical girly style, it feels just so much more elegant and like just so well defined, and it just does genuinely feel celestial and otherworldly, that I feel like gives it so much more of a unique aesthetic for a female character design. It has some layer to it, plenty of gold detail, and I feel like once again those sleeves, like she definitely represents, I think, like the archetype or the prototype for a lot of these Genshin kind of dress designs. But then Aether's design, don't even get me started. Like, I think he has one of the strongest male character designs in general, like for this game, but kind of even more broadly from like an anime type aesthetic, giving us incredible crop action, the scarf, just the like everything about this, also very otherworldly, but especially just for a male character player design, like, no, this does feel a little less practical, but this is absolutely runway ready. It's so strong. Then we have Diluc, and I think that he gives us a much needed, more dark, moody aesthetic compared to what we've gotten so far from the other male characters, and especially within this region, but also Genshin more broadly, more of that kind of gothic twist. And I just really love a little bit more of the texture that we get from his outfit as well. Definitely more so from the hair color, ties to, I feel like, his elemental typing, and just true to the classical European design. Effortlessly stylish, like effortlessly cool guy. Really loving the belt action. He really does have it going on. But I love, oh my gosh, the alternate is high fashion. Runway ready men's couture. And I love how it has so much more of a sharper edge. And I think that this plays along the lines of him kind of going his own way, but still coming from a kind of rich, noble class. So I definitely just love how this brings together a lot of that. I feel like some other anime men's clothing, especially in like other gacha games, kind of draws along these lines, but his just has such unique patterns and prints and kind of cuts to it that easily puts him in his own space. So just like Lisa, I thought that Mona was Electro, but she's Hydro, which is weird, but like that's obviously doesn't really factor into how much I love how interesting and unique her design is. And I've said this before, how purple, red, and black together often aligns with some of the edgiest, like, don't mess with me type characters, like just the most elite. And she's obviously playing within that territory. Love just the body confidence, but she's completely covered. Like, it's just so celestial, so cosmic, so mysterious. I have to say that her alternate, I think I like it more because it does feel more practical from an actual garment and outfit composition and structure standpoint. It's probably just the bias towards the super tall boots. I feel like there's ways to orient this for a very high fashion, like statement moment for like a certain party or event. Love Eula. I've always loved Eula's design. Love the super tall thigh-high boots. Like, they're super tall because her shorts or her whatever she's got going on, like those are short, but the boots are so tall and fill in so much of that void to where it's just like, ugh, it's just so good. I love her sleeves. I love her accessories. It's like it's yet again a high-waisted moment. And she even has a little bit of a cape situation to really bring in some of that, as mentioned, easy breezy movement and drama. Obviously ties to her elemental typing. Like, she's just absolutely love her silhouette. She's just absolutely perfect. But I think that Kaya is easily one of the best male video game characters ever. It's because he has objectively very strong fashion that is not only indicative of a little bit of that kind of historical European influence, aligns perfectly with his region and his element, but it just is perfectly styled. Like, it's so high fashion, magazine, editorial. Like, we got dimension, we have layering, we have texture, we have just all the details. I feel like any person who would be opposed to this is just a flat out hater. But I almost think I love his alternate even more. Honestly, I love them both so much in their own regard. It's less rugged and it just feels a little softer, a little more mystical, and a little more Mediterranean, which I feel like is just a nice flex in genre and aesthetic. Almost like he's some sort of genie or something. And just much more statement gold detailing. And I just love the top that he has. He still is working with some texture as well. Not as layered, but I feel like that's what makes it feel especially easy breezy and even more just like effortless. It just, wow. Such a fashion icon to aspire to from a men's perspective. Such a pleasure going through these Mondstadt Genshin character outfits. Let me know what some of your favorites were, or maybe who takes your top spot in terms of overall fashion style. But until the next video, I'll talk to you later.